Rooted in resilience, inspired by nature, powered by movement. The podcast where healing meets empowerment. Let's rise and thrive together. And now, here are your hosts, Scott and Melissa.
Hey, everybody. We just wanted to pop in and let you know about our Sedona Soul Retreat coming up in June of 2026, June 2nd through the 6th in Sedona, Arizona, where we're going to have it at.
The Briar Patch.
This
Beautiful. It's just this amazing little nugget.
Yeah.
In Sedona, where you think the big red rocks, which you'll see those, of course, but then there's this little sanctuary of green. And one of my dear beings that just shared with me this morning that they will be attending, looked it up and was like, "Oh, that's my place."
Yeah.
They just like felt the connection, and it's very spiritual energy there, and we're excited for holding space for all of us to be in that frequency, that vibration.
It's right on Oak Creek, and we were down there just a few weeks ago checking it out to ensure it was the right fit for our folks. And we are excited about this retreat. It's our second retreat, and we're on our way to selling out. So please check it out at Vital Edge Wellness Coaching Wellness Retreats. You'll see it at vitalwellnesscoaching.com, Wellness Retreats, and sign up. Bring a friend. There's plenty of room. If you'd like double occupancy, you can come down, and we have private cottages and a lodge setting. So that's it.
It's exciting.
Enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Hello, everyone. We just want to take a moment. It is the beautiful season of fall and heading towards some amazing holiday time with family and friends. So we wanted to offer a little reprieve, and we've had some requests for our past videos, accolades for them. And so we're going to play those and take a little break during our holiday time, let you enjoy time with your family and yourself. If you have an individual, like I love some of that quiet time. There we go.
Yeah, so enjoy some past episodes from Rise and Thrive, a podcast by Vital Edge, and we'll see you soon. All right, we're live.
We are.
Welcome to Rise and Thrive, the podcast by Vital Edge Wellness Coaching. I'm here with my co-host, Melissa, and we have a guest today, Alan, who we'll introduce in a few minutes. But, we like to start with a mindful moment. So if you would just make yourself comfortable. If you're driving, don't get too comfortable. Just listen to the words and go within. Keep your eyes open. Find yourself in a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you choose to. Maybe lower your gaze if that's more comfortable. And I just want you to take a minute. I'm not going to give you many prompts today. I just want you to take a minute for yourself. Your capital S self. You deserve it. You've been doing things for others all day, all week, your whole life. You deserve a minute. Follow your breath, long exhales, and just take a minute. I'll watch the clock. Or close, deep inhale. Exhale, letting it all go. Maybe moving your fingers and toes, roll your shoulders. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, come back into the moment, and welcome back to the Rise and Thrive podcast. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Scott, for that. And I'm very excited. I have the privilege of introducing a very dear and sweet soul that I've had the opportunity to come alongside with and support and get to know, and just the honor of being able to watch the growth and transformation. Former retired police officer and veteran. And that doesn't define us, like the watching him morph and what he's been through. We're excited to just share it with the world. And been able to watch him come into a passion and purpose that has just developed, and I see the calling growing every day. So I'm excited to share it with everyone to inspire everyone out there to listen to that calling, listen to that inner voice. So with that, we're gonna jump in and let Alan have the show.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Alan.
Well, thank you very much, God, Melissa, for having me on. This is a privilege and an honor.
And tell us a little bit about how you and Melissa came together and crossed paths.
So I found Melissa, and I think it was the last quarter of 2022, if I remember right. My life was kind of in chaos at that point. I don't have another word for it. Kind of backstory a little bit. So career law enforcement, Marine veteran, Desert Storm, and then I got into law enforcement, did 25 years there. In first part of 2021, due to a mistake I had made, I was forced into retirement. I was going to be fired or retired, and I'll just tell, I have no shame about that anymore. But that put me in a very dark period where I started drinking a lot, very depressed, had, February 28th of 2021, I had decided I was done with life. I was going to take my life that day due to some intervention that happened with a vision of my daughter. I didn't do it, thank God. Retired March 31st of that year. And then 5 days later, I was diagnosed with leukemia. And I was told that I would not live that day. And then later that week when I was put in ICU. So I went through that year fighting, I wasn't about to give up at that point. Been through too much of my life. Dealt with that. During that time, my wife of 12 years decided she couldn't handle anymore, so she left me. So 2021 was an interesting year, but I wouldn't change any of it, and we'll talk about that later. But then as I got better, I had a bone marrow transplant in 2021 as well. Recovered from that, started the healing process from leukemia. And once I got home back to my house and started dealing with stuff, one of the things that kept coming up was my nutrition. My blood sugars were bad. I was type 2 diabetic. The chemo and everything else made it worse. Wasn't eating, wasn't working out, wasn't doing what I needed to do. So my therapist at the time connected me with Melissa. And at that point, we met up, and as I like to say, tell people she was part of my growth team, her and several other people that joined me. And the seeds for growth are planted, and we kind of nurtured those through 2022 and 2023 until they bloomed in 2024.
Wow.
Oh, I like that.
I do too. I wrote down growth team. I think we need to talk more about growth team. That might be a whole episode. That's really good. Alan and I just met 8 minutes ago, and I literally have goosebumps from the high level version of your story. And I'm an empath. I lead with empathy. And so I felt everything you just outlined. And that's rough, brother. I mean, I've had my own struggles, and they pale in comparison. And I think that immediately the lesson that I'm downloading here is when you think you have it rough, others are going through much more difficult challenges. And I appreciate your sharing that. Can you talk a little bit about any of the tools that, I'm very interested in the vision you got from your daughter, the impetus to create the change in that micro moment that put you on this path.
And I will say that was probably the catalyst to the change in my life. Prior to that, I had to control everything around me. I was in law enforcement, didn't listen to what the universe was telling me. I had control. I steered the ship, and we know where that got me. But that moment when I was about to pull the trigger, I actually had the gun in my mouth. I was going to pull the trigger. Image of my daughter, who would have been 19 at the time, I think maybe, 19, popped up on the other side of the table I was sitting at, and just all she said was, "Why?" At that moment, I knew that I had a lot to live for, and this was being, I couldn't do this to my kids and my family. And so that made me reach out to a friend of mine who was a chaplain, who connected me with my therapist. And then that started the tools that I needed to learn about myself, learn about who I was, and tools to know that I wanted to live and how to fight. And those tools that he provided me helped me when I got to the leukemia phase. And then I continued to fight through, and then, the struggle, and made it through where I am now today.
I just have this visual. I was meditating on our conversation that we're going to have today. And I see this, bridge, like I mentioned to you, like you were a completely different person than what you see today, and how you looked at the world and how you experienced the world. And there was this amazing bridge of support that came into play, not from the outside. I would say there's some from the outside, right? But I look at it as, I get all universe here, of you calling it in, and this bridge that developed that brought you here. And I keep thinking, like, when we have our time and our appointments together and connect, is that people that knew you long ago would not recognize you today in your thoughts, the lens you look through, and what you're experiencing in your day-to-day world. And so I'd love to hear more about that bridge, and then where and how the difference of what this day looked like versus this day.
So I would agree with you on that. I mean, if you talk to my children and family members and friends who knew me before all this happened, I'm a different person, and I even know I'm a different person. I can feel it. So the biggest change for me is that when I started working on myself, and then going through the cancer and realizing how important life was and how I enjoyed life, and learning how to embrace the moment that I'm in, and then talking with you, Melissa, talking to my therapist, Josh, and other people, I found self-love again, because, to be honest with you, I didn't have that. I didn't think highly of myself. I was overcritical of myself most of my life. And I realized at that moment, and then, the seeds that we planted, like we talked about, your help and with Josh's help and other people's help, knowing that support, and then finding inside myself that how much I actually do love who I am. I'm a great person. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've come through. And I couldn't say that 3 years ago. And it's been a long road, but I can say that now. And that's what my children see in me now. They will tell me that the resilience that I've shown them, and shown them how important life is a lesson they never thought they would see from me.
I love the word resilience, and that's this whole podcast, and Vital Edge Wellness Coaching was born from that word. And it is a misunderstood word. You learn the word, right, when you're young, and you are told you got to show resilience in sports and in relationships and in work. And then you take a punch, and you take several punches, and, the great quote by Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face. And
Exactly.
so where did the resilience come from?
There's I will actually go back to being the Marine Corps boot camp. You learn from the day one that no matter what you face, you have to continue moving forward. And nothing can, you can do hard things. Over the years as a police officer, I learned the same thing, to face challenges, to do what I needed to do. But at the same time, I did them because I had to. It was my job. I didn't do them because I thought I had the courage. I never thought I did. But going through, what I went through, and the leukemia, and dealing with all of that, and the divorce, I realized, yeah, that inner spirit's still there. And it's because I want to live, and I enjoy life, and I want to provide a good life for my family and those around me. And I want to provide a legacy. I want people to remember me as somebody who was resilient, who was able to fight through um, different things and trauma and deal with it, and then come out on the other side and help other people with it.
And you're happy, and
I'm,
be happy, right?
yeah, I'm very,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm happy now. And I can't
Yeah.
say I was happy before all this.
Well, that's a very clear distinction. And you just said it so well, that you did it because you had to, right? And we often in this world have those kind of layers, because we don't get into the inside. I know you and I've talked about, like, what do you actually feel, to talk about feelings and have emotions and thoughts. And it's almost like going through what you went through peeled those layers off to get to that core that's always been there waiting, to shine through and be that legacy, to be that voice. And for a lot of us, it takes those obstacles, those things from the outside to get us to the inside. And I always hear, in our therapy work, the inner work, right? And it's not just go do A, B, and C and 1, 2, 3. Don't just do the tool and then you're all better. There's that, and it's so elusive, right? It's nothing really tangible. And so each of us are on our own journey to figure out what is that inner work. And that's part of our discussion today, is letting you share, like, you did it. That was some of your inner work that has now brought you to feeling content and happy. Doesn't mean you don't have bad days.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But there's just a different you that is showing up.
Right. And so, I will say, before all of this happened, I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want people to know how I felt. I was told as a child that I was too sensitive, so I shut that part of myself off. Learned in the military, I learned in law enforcement that you don't show emotion because that's a weakness. It's a crock of shit, but that's what you're told. But going through this, I realized that I had to be vulnerable. I had to open up to people, and I had to rely on other people, not just myself, to be there for me and to lean on them. And then so once I was able to be vulnerable with myself and vulnerable with other people, that allowed me to see what was truly inside of me, and then also lean on that support and find that love again.
Your question just opens up so many more questions. First of all, I applaud you. In my other business, Scott Sadler Coaching, I work with corporate leaders around empathy, leaning into their strengths, being vulnerable. And it's not widely accepted. I mean,
No,
everyone likes the label. They're like, yeah, that'd be great. But the work, when you get down to it, people, I don't want to do that. I look weak and someone's coming for me. And so you just described the entire corporate leadership structure and the challenges we have there. It's opening, and more leaders are willing to be open. And the benefit they get as a human is huge, right? As you know. And I want to go back a little bit to the inside work, though, right? And we talk often in this podcast, we refer to Michael Singer's living the life of surrender. I always get that title wrong, and everyone's going to make fun of me.
Untethered soul.
Yeah, he's from the Untethered Soul, but this is the living from a place of surrender, it's called. And, it's one of the most life-changing things. I think every human being should be mandated to read it and to learn it and to study it, because it allows that inner voice to actually become real and become outpictured. And I'm wondering what your first ever recollection of knowing you had that inner voice and what that experience was versus today when you do actually have it and listen to it. Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. If I look back, I really don't know what I realized I had that inner voice, to be honest with you. I think for me, it probably came when I was dealing with leukemia. And then also when I knew my wife was leaving me, listening that, all the stuff that I've told myself over the years is false. And listening to the inner voice and what the universe was presenting me, knowing that I have the strength to overcome this. And so that's when I kind of became to it. Nowadays, I do meditation. I sit there, I listen to silence, and I listen to see what the universe is presenting me. And I follow that now. Before I didn't do that. If it wasn't in my schedule, it wasn't something I planned, I wasn't going to follow it. It didn't make sense. It was, was the term woo woo. And you just don't do that in the world I came from. But understanding now, because that's where true happiness is understanding that we're all going to have feelings, and we're all going to see things our own way. And it's how we process that and how we accept that and we move forward with it.
Aren't you? I mean, I know you are. I shouldn't even start the question that way, but I'm so grateful for you to discovering this now, because we know that many people never understand that true level of happiness, that true authenticity to yourself, capital S again, that opens up doors to the most beautiful things in life. So I'm just applauding you.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, I thought my whole life was that the whole purpose in this world was to help other people, and I just put myself in the back seat. But really, I wasn't helping anybody. until I realized that I could love myself and be happy for who I am. And now I have the skills and the willingness to help other people. And that's what's filling my cup now.
Well, and that realizing that you're one of those people to help, right? We always get like putting ourselves aside as some kind of, I wouldn't want to say like I can't think of the words. Like we don't put ourselves on the front burner. We put it on the back burner because we feel that's more, what do I want to say?
Fulfilling?
Well, not like we're meant to, we're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're supposed to make that sacrifice for others, but that's not the case.
Right. And I think that's becoming more and more understood. But at the same time, it's still very much ingrained in many of us that backward voice is like, oh, don't take time for yourself. Don't care for yourself. But when you start to be like we work in our yoga class all the time, is being that observer, is you start to realize you are one of those people to care for. And the famous quotes out there all the time, you got to fill your cup first. You got to put your oxygen mask on first. And what I love seeing and being able to witness and experience in you and other people I've gotten fortunate to work with is to watch their passion come alive in that purpose, like that clarity from your, solar plexus, to move forward and say, I know what I'm doing now. I want to share my story. We also want to say Alan is writing a book.
Awesome.
And I'm excited for that. I got to read little snippets already. And so that's in the making. And he's also starting to support other people in this journey, this healing journey in various venues. And I'm excited to hear more about that. He's got that's again, I want to get into the tools because like I was saying before, I could totally say that your, life before did not contain all the things you do now. And what are those things that help you to continue to hear that voice and continue to connect with that and know when, because those old patterns will rise up a little bit. We know they're still there. They'll talk occasionally. And then we have to remember that where those are at. And then we come back to that center. And so I'd love to hear more about how you're bridging that and where you're
tools.
at. Yeah, the tools.
Yeah. So, for me, a lot of it is, like we've talked, is the meditation and breath work. That allows me, I try to do it daily. It doesn't always happen based on what I've got going on, but that allows me to stop and just focus on that present moment I'm in and then feel whatever feelings might be there. And that carries over through the rest of my day is that, before I was always worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or what's going to happen the next week. Or, oh, I screwed that up last week and thinking about that anxiety that's attached to that. Versus now I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm enjoying this. I'm sitting with my kids. I'm sitting at home, reading whatever it is and taking every bit of enjoyment out of that and finding lessons in every moment and just being present with that. And that's what people need to do is they need to find that peace and be present and not worry about tomorrow or yesterday. Eckhart Tolle says, we have to live in the now. And it's so key to finding that happiness.
How much of your discovery of tools are in opposition in the way we live in society?
Most of them. And well, for me anyways, when I was growing up and going through my profession, you weren't taught, to sit quiet and listen to what's present. You were thinking steps ahead. Okay, when I get to this scene, I got to do this. I got to do this. You weren't embracing that moment because you didn't have a chance. And some of that is you had to be that way because of what the job entailed. But the problem is it carries over into your personal life after you leave the job. And then it just, it leads to depression, anxiety, which is very high in public safety. And so, the skills that I have now weren't present. I will be honest, I preach it to my officers when I was a captain. I never followed it. I didn't think it applied to me, or I didn't want them to see I was weak, so I didn't do it. But I always told my officers, hey, you need to go meditate. You need to do this. And but now I understand how important those skills are.
I've had similar experiences in the business world. Leaders say this is a great thing. Let's do this, and then they don't follow suit, and that's a challenge. But as you said at the beginning, we all have our individual journeys, And you have to do that individual work, regardless of whether you're saying it's good for someone else. You're still going to pay a price, I think, if you don't engage in that way. So
I believe that. I know the cancer. There's different theories on why I got sick, but part of it is I didn't take care of myself. I lived on that edge of anxiety and depression, and it didn't do what I needed to do. And I think the universe was telling me, "Hey, stop, or you're going to die." And so that's the lesson I got out of that, and I just moved forward with it.
So I'm going to ask another question. Our whole concept for Vital Edge Wellness is born from the things we're discussing today, right? So mindfulness and meditation, we've talked about that. Listening to your inner voice, we've talked about that. The ability to overcome and be resilient, we talked about that. What about functional movement and nutrition and its role with those other things? Because I feel like that's one of the reasons that Melissa and I are so powerful together, is because she brings that functional movement and the nutrition with those other tools that we're both really gifted in, that we have lived, and we overcome our own stuff. Tell me about the nutrition and the functional movement piece.
So those are key. And so, I've always kind of been into fitness to a certain degree. Some of it was I like to eat, so I would run.
Yeah.
Part of it was also, yeah. And then when I was working and when I got stressed or I felt like I screwed up, I would go work out to hurt myself, till I puked or whatever. However, what I learned, especially when I was going through leukemia, and so this is kind of a story that I talk about in my book, but after my transplant, I had to stay within 15 miles of the hospital. So we had a condo up in Lake Oswego. We rented. And it was the summertime. This is when the heat wave happened. So I stayed in the room. I couldn't move. I didn't get out, didn't do anything. One day I went into an appointment. My oncologist is like, "Are you walking?" Because I wasn't making any advancements. My blood levels weren't changing. I said, "No, I don't have the energy." And, well, how can you ask me to walk when I've lost 50 pounds? I look like a ghost. She goes, "You need to walk. You're going to die." And so she told me I had to go home that day, walk for 15 minutes, and she wanted me to add a certain amount of time every time. And so I went home, went back to the condo, and from that day forward, when I started walking, and when I did that, my blood counts went up, my health went up, I felt better, all of that. And what I have found now is that me working out and exercising, I talk to my friends and my girlfriend that I do it to burn the crazy off, which, but it helps me function. It makes me clear-headed. It keeps me focused. And it gives me small goals every day. Hey, today I'm going to do this. So I have those goals. And when you accomplish those goals, you can move on. And that's what I found out when I was going through leukemia is, okay, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes a day. I'm going to walk for 20 minutes a day. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside. And then I'd go out with my walker, and do it around the parking lot. And so, and I got better and better and stronger and stronger. And then nutrition is feeds that, because without the nutrition piece of it, your body doesn't feel good. You have inflammation, you're swelling. This was everything I was having issues with. And my blood sugar levels are horrible and just wasn't eating right. So working with Melissa and getting that nutrition piece down, I've slimmed up. I feel great. And all of it just works together as a puzzle to make your overall wellness better and stronger.
Was any part of that a spiritual process? I mean, how closely was it tied to your voice and the quiet time that you described earlier?
All of it, because so if I didn't work out or I didn't walk and I sat in my chair and this is what was happening. I was sitting in my recliner in this condo, feeling sorry for myself, feeling like a victim, and wasn't improving. But once I got moving, then I realized, well, one, I have control, and I can make myself stronger. And then that led to spirituality for me. All of this has been a spiritual journey. I was raised in the Christian church. I still have that faith. However, I do believe Christianity kind of takes you so far. There are some aspects of it that actually lead to the guilt that we all feel. And then the Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion, some of the stuff that I've worked with Melissa makes that puzzle complete for me. And that's what leads to that inner voice and just all of it. Yeah. They're all interconnected. I can't really describe how, but without one piece, the other one doesn't exist.
Thank you.
Well, again, I keep seeing the bridge, and it's just like when we create that foundation, it's all the pieces of what we are meant as humans to learn. Like many of us don't grow up learning how to take care of this body. We're meant to go to school, work, and hope the body keeps up with it all. And don't, all that. Don't worry, don't stress, but just keep doing. And there's no connection. And so when you start to have that connection, you realize that, oh, I have a responsibility, and the number one responsibility is to take care of this body every day. And so those are all those pieces that you're describing. And so really, like we go back to everybody's journey, is figuring out what is your personal recipe of those pieces that come together that help you to thrive. We've worked on a morning routine. We've worked on, and it's not forcing these things to happen. It's integrating them into a way of being. It's not, oh, now do these things, like I said before, and then you're better. This is a way of life for you. I've seen it just transform to where you're not now making it happen. It's just how you are. And it's coming from that place of surrender, that place
of surrender.
It is a place of surrender. And I would agree. I mean, each of us have our own puzzle we have to put together. If I went back to my old self, it would be, okay, I have to get up at 6 o'clock. I have to be in the gym by 6:30. I have to eat breakfast. I can't do that. And that's just not my style. There are people that can do that and that works well for them, but no, when my body is ready to work out, I'm going to work out. When I'm ready to do the meditation, my body will lead me there. And it's on me to listen to that and follow that instead of forcing it. It's that giving up the control and surrendering. Absolutely.
Because ultimately, we are not in control, and we want to think we are. And so can you tell us a little bit about your book?
So did really good when I got home in 2021, and when I moved in the new place after the divorce and stuff. I was really good. Covered cancer, my employment, all of that stuff. And then I kind of put it away for about a year and a half. And I've started back up. But so it's basically describing, what I went through. And I talk about some of the skill sets I had prior to what I am now, prior to everything happening, which was not a skill set, drinking alcohol, working out just to dull the pain, and all the stuff I was doing that was improper and I saw trauma in my life. There's stuff that happened that I didn't know how to process and didn't process it. And it all came back to haunt me later. But the book talks about that, and it talks about going through, being an administrative lead, being told I was going to get fired, having to retire, the suicidal part of that. I talk heavily about that. And then I go into talking about leukemia and what I did and the skill set. And right now we're talking, so then I talk about the growth team I built and the seeds I planted. And it goes from there, and we'll talk about the transformation that happened, and we'll kind of end up there. These are the lessons I learned. And anybody who goes through, I call it temporary, is growth through chaos. Is anybody can use that chaos to use it to propel you and grow, but you have to be open to it.
Yeah, the only way out is through, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I can relate to that in my own life, and you're speaking the truth of what has to happen. You can't ignore the chaos, and you can't stay in the chaos. So therefore, you have a choice, and that's where your inner voice gives you the choice. I love that, and we'll be sure and put your book, your title, and when it's ready, into our show notes so that people can access it, because I think people are going to really want to read your story. I think I have one more question.
I do too.
Okay, good. We have a lot more questions. We're trying to restrain ourselves.
Yes,
a little timer here, but what are you most excited about today?
So for me, and me and Melissa have talked about that, there is I never believed in the earth energy and listening to that, but there is an energy force I feel that's going to happen. I sense, and I'm excited because I'm putting together either, retreats to help first responders and veterans deal with this. and how do we grow from there? I want to teach other people and tell my story for they can be vulnerable, for they can see the growth and experience the growth that I have and find that happiness, because I know too many first responders, police officers, most of my friends are retiring now and they're all bitter. They're all angry. They don't need to be. And so working with them and trying to get them to move forward. So that's my excitement is what I have learned in teaching others for they can experience my happiness.
That's amazing. Have you done any? Are you starting those?
I haven't did any retreats. We're working on a master class on how to do retreats and structure like that. So I've helped out with a couple of retreats on some other stuff, but I have not branched out on my own yet.
Awesome. Well, when you do, you let us know, and we'll be sure and let our listeners know too. So
yeah, the goal would be to have the book and those kind of coincide together.
Great.
Beautiful.
That's just legacy stuff, man.
It is.
It's really great.
Yeah. And that pretty much goes hand in hand with the question I had, is just like, where do you see yourself now and the vision of how you want to live and be and your passion? And that's writing your book and the retreats and giving back, and not only to yourself, but to those that are struggling, right? It's like you hear people work and force themselves to retirement to get there. And then they get to retirement and they ingrained all those patterns all these years that just, the patterns don't stop. And offering those avenues to help alter those patterns and awaken to how life can be completely different than what they have seen through the lens.
Just understanding that being a firefighter, police officer, veteran, Marine, that's not your identity. Your identity is inside of you, and you have to find that. That's where your happiness is.
I love it.
What a great episode. I think we could talk for 2 hours. So we'll be sure to have you back, and especially when you get your retreats up and running. I think that would be really amazing. Alan Lynn, thank you for being with us today on Rise and Thrive, and we look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. This was awesome.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Rise and Thrive, a podcast by Vital Age Wellness Coaching. If you found this episode meaningful, please rate, review, and share it with someone who might need it. For upcoming retreats and to join the Vital Edge Wellness community, head to vitaledgewellnesscoaching.com. Let's rise and thrive together.